he's everything you would hope Bradley Whitford would be like, you know. He just is, he's that guy, and there's nobody more fun to have on set, and so much of his genius is on the screen here in terms of what he brought to the film.
This was my one sort of weird disappointment with my first time watching this with an audience, was that they were cracking up during this because they knew, and I thought they would have forgotten.
But what's funny is that you watched, you're talking about the South by Southwest audience. They were, but if you watch it with different audiences, they don't. They have no idea. The South by Southwest audience was definitely more savvy.
But it's so lovely if you don't know.
If you don't know.
Because he's so good, and it's
he's so good.
And you think, you know what? Maybe he'll, you know.
I still watch it. Look, I've seen this 1,000 times, and I still am hoping that he's going to be right. He just sells it. God bless Chris.
Yeah.
This was important, the sort of multi-times we cut back to him hitting his head on the rungs. I remember going over that ad nauseum with the visual effects department.
Yes, we do need the third revisit.
It is important, and I can't tell you why. And yes, it's going to be expensive, but do it anyway.
Dana.
Boy, I could look at her for a long while.
It really, I mean, her importance, it's hard because she sort of has the thankless Luke Skywalker Frodo part.
Right.
Where you're carrying the movie and yet you don't get to do the fun stuff.
Right,
and yet,
you're not the character.
This movie does not work without Kristen's performance.
Mm-hmm.
You're going back.
I'm going through. And we'll just drive. And there's got to be another road, another way out of here.
That won't work. Something will happen. It'll collapse.
I think this was the scene where, you know, when, you know, the inevitable happens, I was like, oh my God, I'd forgotten. Even I hate me now. Even I think that I'm callous.
Please, do not go nuts on me, okay, Dana? You're all I've got.
It is sort of brutal how he's just dispatched so quickly.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Good, okay, because I need you calm.
Just whatever you do, don't say the word calm. Oh,
boy, calm.
What?
You knew better.
Never watched Buffy, did you? Now, do we see the thing going into his head?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's very
you
quick.
don't see it. It's not fetishized in a close-up, but you definitely hear it going into his head as it's going.
Yeah, because we did shoot it in close-up, and nothing I've ever shot has made me more uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I think that's why we pulled back, because it felt a little gratuitous.
Yeah.
Now, here's, you know, one of the things about directing is
here's your Abyss moment.
You never have as much time as you want, and you have to learn what's important. And the last 4 days of shooting were the last scene between Dana and Fran on the steps at the very end of the movie, and this. Yeah. We had a much more involved underwater sequence, and it was just, you just realized, I fought at the end of the day to have more time with Fran and Dana on the steps, and this works out great. I mean, this is as long as it wants to be.
Yeah,
you know,
it's gorgeous.
God damn, that was close.
It still bothers me that bottle's not wet.
I know.
I'll never get over that. Somebody was like, "Oh, it's going to make a sound if water's on it."
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
it's going to be bad for sound. And every now and then, that's got to be the priority. But in this case, it makes me crazy to see it come out of water and then whip at somebody and
then it's not wet. Yeah. No, I'm sure it's because Whitford couldn't catch a wet bottle. Let's blame Bradley.
You know what? Why did we even work with him? This is another of his moments, though.
To Kill Is My Lady. It doesn't even quite make sense, and that's why it's so great. Like, it's just like Bradley I believe that was take 8.
Yeah.
And it was like, just say whatever, Bradley, whatever you want. And he said Tequila Is My Lady.
Well, he always gives you what you gave him.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you're like, no, you can now play. It's not like he's
Bradley
like,
time.
I need to put the Bradley stamp upon it. He's not that guy. He's just like, I can do something else.
That's right. And he does his thing. And Tequila Is My Lady was one of those like,
oh my God,
I don't even understand what that means. And it's wonderful.
It's the moment of interruption. It's how heartfelt he is.
I know.
That frame. Let's take some time to really feel her grief and really let the audience breathe and not, just sort of, oh no, okay.
Oh, bear trap.
Bear trap. Now,
headcock.
The headcock, very important.
Very important to you Halloween fans
out
there.
How important is REO Speedwagon to you? Because this is yours.
It's so crucial, and this is another. The studio wanted to cut this sequence, and at a certain point, this is what happens just in movie making. You lose focus. You don't quite understand. You're like, maybe everyone else is right. Maybe this does need to be cut. I don't know.
I should also say a studio that was on the verge of bankruptcy that bought the movie, made the movie without changing a single word.
That's right.
Completely on board. It is that post-process coupled with impending bankruptcy that I think caused more trouble than we would normally have had.
Without question. And
Because,
part of this is
deserve
just the
enormous
process.
props.
You start second guessing things. That's
Yeah.
what happens in movie making. And I remember at a certain point they were like, it's got to be cut. And I remember we were sitting in the editing room, and I for various reasons, I really felt very personal about the sequence. I just felt like, to me, this is the movie. Like,
Well, a lot of
this
people
is
have called this one out as the most important, or
For
the
me-
funniest, or the least funny.
Yeah,
which I love.
to me, it's just crucial to the film because this sets up the third act.
Yeah.
All of these people get what's coming to them, and yet you also understand where they're coming from. Like it just felt like this
Yeah.
is the movie, and so I didn't want to cut it. I fought.
It's not like, oh, we're afraid of aliens, so let's touch the scary one that looks like a male member that came out of the slime because that's what you do when you're afraid of them. It's not that kind of behavior.
No,
it's just relief.
It's
we
just
save
relief,
the world.
and yet you understand at the end why we go to the slaughter. It makes the slaughter okay because these people are. And it's just the whole movie is here to me, and so I didn't want to lose this whole sequence. And I remember when at a certain point, but at a certain point you do get battered. You just get battered in movie making. It just happens on various times. And so we're sitting there, and we had been sort of under the gun, and I remember you said to me, as we're sitting there, like, I think we've lost this battle. This is one of the battles that we've lost. And I said, okay. And I just couldn't help it. I'm not proud to say this, but I couldn't help it. I started crying. I didn't want to lose this. And I remember you just staring at me, and then you just turn and you pick up the phone and you say, get the studio head. And without saying anything, you wait, and then the studio head, and you go, yeah, we're not cutting it. And you just hang up. That's all. That's what it was. It was like, and I remember like, oh, thank God. Like it was the sort of thing where it's like, okay, this is how you have to do it. You have to fight these battles, and sometimes you don't quite know. But yet, when it's important, you know.
I remember a couple of times where you were like, "This battle's coming, so we got to get ready," or whatever it is, and not just on this movie. And you know what? The good thing about having a team is that one of you gets to be weak, and then the other one gets to be strong.
That's right.
It's a lot like a marriage.
Yeah, and especially when you're doing stuff that's so weird.
It's
it's just so weird that you can have self-doubt creep in. You just can when it's like when we're getting bizarre.
My problem as a producer has always been that because I started low budget television, and this has always sort of been my attitude in life. I work with what I have.
Right.
And you were like very instructive to me about, this is what I have. I need more. And I was like, oh, you're allowed to ask for that? Is that really?
I don't know if you are. This is where naivete of the first-time director comes into play, where you just.
A lot of the reasons Buffy worked as a show was from naivete. Was from we'll do too much because nobody has explained to us that we're not supposed to.
I read a great interview right before I started shooting this. It was just one of those moments of karma or kismet, I suppose, where Danny Boyle was talking about a shallow grave, and he just said, you're never going to have a time like your first time. You're never going to have your first movie again because your naivete will lead you to do things that you never will do again. And I absolutely, watching Cabin, I feel that with every frame. There's so much that I was like, well, I wouldn't do that because that would be too hard. There's so much of this movie that's just too hard. Yeah. Just having all the playback in the control rooms, for instance. I didn't know better, and yet it's better because I didn't know better. It's better because we did it anyway. We didn't green screen everything.
Why did we think that was possible?
Conversations
we had.
We didn't have a choice budgetarily. We
hit every snag that you could.
And yet it works. That's the thing you learn. You figure out a way.
Yeah.
You figure out how to make it work.
Well, the thing is, it can be done, and you, everybody's going to tell you that it can't, and you end up surrounding yourself with people who just don't have that mindset.
Right.
And there's on every project, there's somebody whose go-to is no.
Right.
And then maybe they can work themselves towards it, but there's that thing that, and you have to have the confidence and the energy of a lunatic.
Which we have in spades.
Yes. Get ready, America, because we're still alive. We totally have this other idea. Well, that part's not true. I just have the one.
For you screenwriting students out there, the second that door closes is begin Act 3, and it's such a clean act. Like, this is where I've never seen something lay out so perfectly in a structure as this movie. Like, it really is simple, and yet it works. You learn a nice structure really saves you later when you're trying to make decisions. If your structure is clean, it makes life so much easier.
You know, I mean, we never did anything.
No, we never
by
changed
chance.
that.
And the thing is, there's so many things in this movie that you could go, whoa, that's a 4:00 in the morning random decision, and you wouldn't be wrong because we had the structure to allow for those.
That's right.
And you know, that's for me. And you know, we sound very self-congratulatory on this commentary, by the way.
No, believe me.
You know,
well,
I mean, we sound really
welcome to us.
Yeah. But that's a good practical werewolf, by the way.
God bless the werewolf. Yes, I mean,
you know, because
again, so much of this movie is just let's do the things we've always wanted to do and see if they'll let us get away with it.
Yeah,
well, I've always wanted to direct the werewolf. Yeah. I've always wanted to be like, this is werewolf more snapping with the jowls.
Yes.
Like you, and yet, and this is my job.
Yes, I know. It's it is that great geek moment of, wait, I actually do this and I get paid? That's just fine. Obviously, for me, this is everything I love.
By the way, ballerina dentata is pure Joss Whedon, ladies and gentlemen.
This is a ballerina that wants to eat like Luke and Han at the beginning of...
you mean the Sarlacc pit?
Yes, it's the Sarlacc pit face. Or the Sugar Plum Fairy.
The Sugar Plum Fairy. God, she's great.
She was lovely. And also,
and this is practical.
Practical makeup. Beautiful practical makeup.
And we've talked a lot about this, but it is the rule on Cabin was if you can do it practically, we're doing it practically. Part of that was naivete. Part of that was aesthetic. But it just, you can't beat a practical effect. You can't.
And the great thing is technology is to the point where you can mix them when you need to so that you still have some of that veracity. But we wanted, you know.
If I had it to do over again, I probably would have used more digital effects because I now trust.
But this,
I trust digital effects more than I did when I started this movie.
Well, honestly, they're a lot better than when you started this movie.
That's true.
You started this movie 4 years ago.
4 years.
I would say the little ball is probably the closest thing that we got to an actual shout out.
Yes.
This guy and Pinhead are, clearly going to the same 4th of July barbecue.
And we tried really hard not to do too many shouts out. Like it felt like then it just becomes a movie about greatest hits. And yet, to me, Pinhead is the equivalent of werewolf because it is so it's so iconic.
It's become
and it deserves to be on the same level of just the simplicity of vampire, werewolf, Pinhead.
Yeah. Well, the Huron is in here, and you know how I feel about that. The Native American who might slaughter you, which was our sort of the beginning of our horror mythos in our culture. So to go from there, it's like Pinhead has become part of that.
Absolutely.
He's become part of that discussion. He's not just like popular, and it was so important for it not to be Monster Island, for it not to be, I mean, if you took a bunch of iconic characters who'd already been in a movie and then just made a movie with all of them together, you'd be a disgusting hack. Oh, God. We're going to cut that later, right? We'll take that out.
Yeah, we could magic of technology.
Commentary's going really badly. Favorite shot?
I'll totally leave that.
Favorite shot in the movie? I love this shot so much. It breaks my heart. And it's scene transitions.
Transitions are so important. I remember in Buffy they were so important, and I feel like that is an art that has fallen by the wayside these days. People don't like transitions in movies.
Well,
I love them.
People, one of the things about making a movie is that the studio, and I'm not talking about the studio we're working for here, I'm talking about studios in general, they expect you to go in with the movie unmade, to come out with the movie unmade. They expect the movie to happen in the editing room, to go, we found out that this is the thing we like. And
we'll do some pickups later.
Yeah, and that's part of the process, no doubt. There's never been anything where, we just went, boom, here it is, you're welcome.
Right.
But at the same time, even to do a oneer.
Yeah, that's
where,
right.
it makes
it
people
goes
nervous.
against what they want.
Yeah.